How do you say your last name?
Roznovsky.
Roznovsky.
That's a hard one.
Roznovsky.
Roznovsky.
Yeah.
Roznovsky. Okay.
Yeah, it's Roznovsky is the way it's pronounced in the old country, but it's Roznovsky here.
Where's that?
It's Czech.
Oh, it's Czech?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of people look at the last name and hear it, and they look at the last name and they think that because it has SKY at the end, they think that it's Polish. But if it was Polish, you'd have an I instead of the Y.
It almost has a little Russian twang too.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could say it does. But yeah, it's 100% Czech. I've been over to the whole country a couple of times and have enjoyed that. And one of the things we found out there when we were visiting our family city and stuff, and it's something else you could talk about if you want to, but it was weird was when we were going through the church. It was interesting is the church in the hometown is a St. Michael's church, and in Lake Jackson we have a St. Michael's church, and of course over there the cemetery's in behind the church, and we were walking back there to look at tombstones and stuff, and we started seeing a lot of of course Roznovskys, but then we also saw Roznovska. And so I was asking my son's mother-in-law, who is Polish, and I was asking her about that. Where's the Roznovska come from? She says, well, that's if you were a female Roznovsky and you died and you had not married, that was a female version of Roznovsky. It was Roznovska. So if you passed away before you married, well, then it was Roznovska.
Got you.
So
little history lesson there.
Yeah, I never heard about that until we went there and stuff. And then that was weird, learning that piece of it. Because we never, down here, my parents come from Shiner, Moulton, Texas. And, I've never seen Roznovska. It's always just been Roznovsky.
So before we started the podcast, you were mentioning you grew up in Clute around here. And now you're the mayor of Lake Jackson. Right. So what is it like to be the mayor right now?
Well, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good. I mean, I get asked that a lot of times because, again, I was been on city council for such a long period of time. And so, people ask me, how's it going and stuff. And I said, it's everything I expected. It's one reason why I was on council for so long was, the main reason I've been on council, involved with city council for so long is because I knew there's experience and knowledge that I have that I could share. Things that I learned through my career at Dow that I've brought to this city. And there's other things I still want to bring, that I wasn't able to bring as a councilman, but I can bring as a mayor. But so my goal is that, again, like I told you earlier, is that I'm always learning to prepare myself for the next opportunity. And, the next opportunity being on city council is if the opportunity came up that I could be mayor, well, then I wanted to be the best I could.
Right.
And so that's, so I've prepared. I could say I've been preparing myself for a long time for this role, and we've had a lot of challenges this year and last. And some of that I was a councilman during that period of time. The rest of it, I've been a mayor. And so people say, "Well, it's been really tough for you, hasn't it?" So no, not really. It's things we've been able to work through, and we've got great staff. We've got a great new city manager who came up through the ranks in our city, and he's done an excellent job, Modesto Mundo, and. So it's been great. Is
the Lake Jackson? So is your position like a strong mayor? Do you have more oversight than the city manager does? No.
So the city manager. So basically, what you have to look at is the city council is like a board of directors of a corporation, and then your city manager is the CEO or the COO.
Okay.
And so everybody except for the city attorney and city manager. And the municipal judges, which we have, a primary and secondary, those people report to us. Everybody else reports to the city manager.
Okay.
So even the police chief and so forth report to the city manager.
Got you. So we've been talking to a lot of business owners from the Lake Jackson area, and this place is booming. So that's got to be pretty exciting for the council. So is that something that y'all are strategically planning for, right. Dealing with businesses? Like, how is the city government helping the local businesses?
Well, we try to help in any way we can. A lot of times our hands are tied a lot more than people think they are. But, we've... Through our past city manager, who Bill Yenny had been there for a very long time, and he was a strong believer of always investing in your infrastructure and preparing for the future. And that's the same way I am, and our councils in the past have been also. And so, even like 2008 when the economy turned down, we still through, city council and recommendations from our city manager, we continue to invest in our infrastructure so that when the economy turned around, we'd be ready for it. Good example is we have the Dow Center down there,
right,
in Lake Jackson. We would not have that if we had not invested in 2008 to put the infrastructure in for growth.
Wow.
And because even though Dow owned all that property in there, that used to be part of where the original Dow airport was at, used to be in downtown. And I can tell you some stories about that too. But I don't know if y'all know about y'all have seen the history of the airliner that was hijacked and landed in Lake Jackson.
No.
Okay.
Come on.
I can tell you a story about that because my brother was there on the runway when he was taking off as a student pilot, was preparing to take off, was giving it full throttle whenever out of the cloud he and his instructor saw this big, I don't know what it was, a 737. I don't know what it was.
That landed?
Yeah, it landed there. Yeah, and it was a hijacking. And so it was a big deal. So look it up in the history, and if you ever want to talk about it, I can get you in connection with my brother, and maybe he'll tell you the story about it from his side. But anyway, where was I?
Infrastructure.
Infrastructure. So we invested in infrastructure, and so it was interesting. Joe Reinhardt was the mayor at the time, and he was just like everybody else, was interested, wanted that to come to the city. And so Dow came to us, and they said, "Well, do you have this capability of, supplying, water and all these kinds of deals?" And we said, yes, because we had it there. Because again, Dow owned the property, but they could have just as easily come up to Pearland.
Right.
And so all our answers were yes. And so it's there now.
So how does that building, does Dow own that building or does so Lake Jackson owns the building?
No. Dow still owns the land.
Okay.
My understanding is Dow still owns the land, but they don't own the building.
Okay.
It's a long-term lease.
Okay.
And again, from my years in the company and what I did in the past is that over time, through all the acquisitions that Dow had done, they had learned that they didn't want to be in the real estate business.
Yeah.
And so they started selling off a lot of their buildings because, it becomes an albatross, all these large corporate buildings and stuff like that. So, yeah, so that's the arrangement there. And so they don't own a whole lot of buildings anymore.
Yeah, they're definitely getting out of that game.
Yeah.
In regards to the infrastructure in Lake Jackson, we've noticed the areas of improvements, like the place by Acai Bowl. What is that place called?
By Denny's.
Yeah, Denny's. All that. It looks like it's from an eye appealing, from a curb perspective, right? Yeah. It looks like it's growing in that area.
Yeah, well, that's we had the people reinvesting. The people that own the property, they've reinvested, so they saw the value of changing the front face of it and stuff. So that was great. We really welcomed that. And again, we worked with them as best as we could, to make that happen. Most of it was just, get out of their way and let them do stuff. That's one of the things is that I've always been, I think I've always been known for, and that's always what I push for is that we in city government should be enablers. And we should also be looking for and talking to people and say, well, where's the roadblocks? What's keeping you from enabling you to do what you need to do to put your investment in our city? And where we can, we need to be removing those roadblocks. I mean, some of those roadblocks are there for a good reason, and we can't do anything about it, but we can help them work through those issues. So that we try to do that as much as we can. Talk about growth and stuff like that. Yeah, we wish we could have even more growth. We're running into an issue in Lake Jackson is that we have limited open space and stuff. So, residential is a challenge for us. So like Angleton up above us, next city up from us on 288, they're growing really fast. They're having a lot of housing boom, and which is great for them. And as they can build the houses up there, just come shop in Lake Jackson. Yeah, that's what
it pretty much is, though. I mean,
Lake Jackson is the hub. Yeah, it really is. And COVID is trying to kind of throw a wrench into stuff because what you have in Lake Jackson is, and a lot of people don't know it, is that as far as revenue sources for Lake Jackson, the number one revenue source for Lake Jackson is sales tax. And next of that is we have an industrial district agreement with Dows and BSFs and all those type of stuff. So that's a 15-year agreement. So that's our next highest source of revenue. And then our third source of revenue is property tax.
Wow.
Yeah, and then two of them may bounce back and forth. And 2 and 3 may bounce back and forth. But anyway, we don't. Property tax is not our primary source of revenue. And the other thing that people don't realize, and if they ever looked at our budget, they would see it, is that what we collect in property tax isn't even enough to cover the cost to operate our PD. So the rest of, the big bulk of ours is coming from sales tax. So that's why we're always looking for, new businesses that come into our area. And that's why we try to be very supportive to businesses coming in there.
What are other cities' major source of income? Like what could we do in the future to increase that number? Like Pearland or something like that?
I don't know what Pearland's split is. I'm sure. I think the property tax is probably number one, and then sales is next. I'm not sure on theirs. But for example, just like my old hometown is Clute. Well, their primary was property tax, and then sales tax is number two. And they get a little bit from the industrial district, but since so little, it's weird how that's all carved out. It depends on where your city limits are and all that kind of stuff. But going back to COVID, what happened to COVID is everybody, we were all locked down and stuff like that. So, and people didn't want to go to grocery stores or whatever. So they picked up their phones and, 1-800 Amazon. Right. Well, the good thing about it is that, I think the last session, before this, the legislature changed where, if you live in Clute and you order something from Amazon and you live in Clute, the city would get that sales tax. Right. Okay. So what happened is during COVID is that we didn't have people going into stores in Lake Jackson. People were calling stuff and ordering from Amazon. So these cities that normally didn't see a big revenue source of sales tax, they started seeing it because people were in Clute or wherever and buying stuff, and the sales tax was coming to them. So COVID did impact us on sales tax, but not as bad as we thought. We really thought it was going to hit us hard. We thought it was going to hit us by about $2.5 million. But it probably hit us less than half of that. And but the reason why is because, people weren't going to the grocery store in Lake Jackson buying stuff, or they weren't going to the mall and buying a new pair of shoes, but they were going to Lowe's and Home Depot that's in Lake Jackson doing all their remodeling. So we saw, we looked at data that we had data that we collected, and we just saw the shift that went from, the mall and those went down, but Home Depot and Lowe's covered up it kind of flipped. Yeah,
going to Home Depot, everyone was doing a project, and the Home Depot can keep stuff on the racks. Everything was being sold out from gardening. Everyone started a garden.
Everybody was going to feed the family with their tomatoes.
What's the you got your background in Dow, so I know your brain probably thinks streamlining work processes and stuff like that. What is the biggest opportunity that Lake Jackson can do to remove hurdles for local businesses? What's the number one agenda that if you had a golden wand that you could wave and get rid of?
It's a little bit difficult to answer because every business brings a unique situation to the table, but we try to work with the businesses. We're Brazoria County is a dry county. Yeah. Okay. And then you have individual cities that have been able to go and pass resolutions to allow different kind of mixtures of drinks and stuff like that. Pearland's going after their 51% deal. I haven't heard where that's at yet, but if they've got all the signatures they needed yet or not. But so again, and Lake Jackson is a conservative city, and so one of the challenges that we've run into in the past is that before we went to the voters, and the community went to the voters to get it changed where you could do the business with mixed beverage, we had to have basically private clubs. All the restaurants were private clubs, and so they had to mess with all that memberships and all this kind of stuff. And so they finally got together. We had one business that said, "The heck with this." They put the money up front to do the petitions and everything, and be able to take a voter to go to this business restaurant with mixed beverages and stuff. So that opened up a lot of things for us. But again, we're a very conservative city. So, we do still have some people come back to us and say, why can't we have a bar in Lake Jackson? Well, you can, but you have to go and petition and make that happen, you have to petition the county, and the county puts it on the ballot. The city, they said, well, why can't the city do it? We can't do it. And we went to the state and asked, is this something the city can take the lead on? No, you can't. It has to be the public has to take the lead on that.
See, that's a learning for us, because we've talked to a couple of restaurant owners, and we thought that it was something the city could facilitate, but something the county does.
Well, we can stay out of the way, and we would. I mean, if the citizens want to go do that, we're not going to go over and put anything in the way that says you can't do this, or try to put something in the way to make it fail. We're supportive of it.
So we can put that we can put that misconception to bed. Then if they just take it to the county, it sounds like Lake Jackson would be receptive.
There's a process to it, and it's going to be up to the voters. I am a big believer in taking as much as we can to the voters. Yeah, and because again, I can only talk to so many people. Council can only talk to so many people, and we only hear from so many people. And so, one way to get the true voice, is put it on a ballot and get some feedback from the community, and see if they want to approve it or not. Yeah,
are all Brazoria County cities dry?
Yeah, the whole county is dry, and then individual cities can choose to be dry or not. They have to just take it to the voters. Like Angleton can have liquor stores and so forth. Lake Jackson can't. Freeport can have liquor stores. We can't. What's funny is we'll have people say, well, we want to be able to have bars. We want to be able to have a liquor store. But then they say, but we want good liquor stores. I said, yeah. Once you open the door up, you can have anything. Anybody that wants to put a shingle on the wall and can get their license from the state, they can come. So it can be good and bad. Wow. So you just have to live with what you got. And now, what's interesting with Pearland is, with their 51, they're talking about that they're looking at having entertainment districts, which, they don't even have that in their zoning right now. So to me, it almost seems like they may have the cart before the horse. Yeah. They should have gone after going to council to get the zoning and then go after this other thing, because what they're going to do is, if the 51% changes, my understanding is that even if a business wants to come in, they're going to go to council and get approval by the council to be able to open that business up, right? Because it's not zoned.
It's a tough spot too, because Lake Jackson, like you said, we want to be the hub there, right? Right. And there's a lot of people, with all those businesses that are popping up, the fill station, all those newer buildings. Right. Most people are starting to stay around Lake Jackson. Lake Jackson's become a very hot spot. Right. So do you foresee any chance of being able to walk from bar to bar? Is that all with not being
the downtown area, they've done, sip and strolls.
Okay.
And stuff like that. So we've never prevented that from happening and so forth. So they have those events. Now, the challenge that you have right now is if you go, to one of the restaurants, and you go over and you get a beer, well, TABC is going to keep you from carrying that beer from one business to the other because they're licensed. Right. Okay. But when they do, they've had the sip and strolls and stuff like that. And so what it is that the way that I think they get around it, and I'm just guessing here, is that what you do is you're buying a ticket to participate with all these businesses. Okay. And so that's the businesses are involved. That's different than picking it up and just strolling through town, and because again, the businesses that have those licenses sitting there at restaurants with that serve alcohol beverages, they could lose their license if you walked out of the business with a mixed drink in your hand.
Interesting.
That's my understanding, but I'm not a legal expert.
I think the new business growth, like with these restaurants and things, I think that's keeping people here rather than moving to Pearland, because I think they go to Pearland so they're kind of close to Houston and they can have that nightlife. Right. Because I feel like the city's getting a little younger. All the people coming into the plant lives and things.
Well, we would like to. We definitely are pursuing what can we do to bring a younger crowd to our area. And, we want to bring the young professionals into the area. That's how Lake Jackson grew. Lake Jackson grew by young professionals coming in, either with a family or not. And if they didn't have a family, so then they stayed and they found somebody special and they created a family there. So that's how we grew. And but because of, changes the way Dow operate or the other companies operate, and also because of as other cities grow, well, then it was easy to draw our people to those other areas because they were bringing in a lot of new things. And so we're doing some catch up on it, but I think I don't think so. I know we're ready to work with anybody that has a good concept that where they want to come to us. And that good concept to us is that, are you capable of making it happen? If we just enable it,
right,
then that's a good concept.
A big project that's going on with, I think it's at McLean Park. Y'all are doing like a bike trail now.
Mm-hmm.
How's that coming along? And I think that's a big need, right?
Oh yeah. It's a partnership. And we've had the trail back there before, and we had one resident that, and we had a subcommittee from our Parks and Recreations board, which was a hike and bike subcommittee, and I served on it as a liaison from city council and stuff. But we had one gentleman that was really big into off-road bicycling. And so on his own, he would, and he'd asked us first, the city, and we said, sure, you can go cut your trails back there and stuff. And so he would, on his own, he started out with a machete first, and he started with push motors, and then he was able to get access to bush hog, and so he started building trails out there. And a lot of people in the community, most people in the community would never know that we have that area out there, and it's in the lower Brazos there, so it's a low area. And but and he's moved out of the city, and so the trails have grown back up. So this group is wanting to come back. They came to us and said, we're they're willing to cut the trails and maintain it and all that kind of stuff. I said, it's great, and it's they're affiliated with a national group.
Yeah,
and so it's great. And so I've got, and you would never know looking at me that I used to be an extreme cyclist. I did century rides.
Oh wow!
So I would do century rides, or 100 miles in a day. And my biggest ride that I would always do every year was the Hot on Hill 100 in Wichita Falls. And the reason why they called it the Hot on Hill 100 was it was 100 miles, but you would do it September 1st or 3rd. So it was over 100 degrees out in the middle of nowhere. And so my goal always was, once I started doing that, was to complete that 100 miles in less than 5 hours.
God.
And so I finally did that until I had my injury, and then I was off the bike for a long time.
That's quick.
Yeah.
Did you do any running too?
No. Running is for masses, whatever the word is. It's just, I never, I played football and stuff like that, but my running was more focused on, if I did running, it was like short distances, sprints and stuff like that. And
Mike got me into biking. We're heavily into running, and then we started dabbling in biking. So we'll go up to Houston, and what's the park we bike at?
Buffalo Bayou.
Buffalo Bayou.
Yeah. That big trail.
Yeah.
It's nice, but
my son has picked up on cycling, and he lives in Europe now, but he's gotten into it hard and heavy like I was, and so he's got major investments in his cycling, and I need to get back into it, and I have a recumbent, but it never did feel right doing a recumbent, and so now I've got a custom made e-bike coming in.
Oh wow!
And so it's most e-bikes have the power. They have power hubs.
Right.
Well, this is mid train power, so it's at your crank, and so you have more torque and all that kind of stuff. And so it's going to give me the ability with my bad knee to still do some cycling. And if I get tired, I just kick the power on and ride home.
Those things are getting
the way to go.
Too.
Yeah.
We have a lot of trail rides with e-bikes now.
Oh yeah. So I plan on going out on the trail once it's open and stuff like that. And the only restriction that we put on that when they came to us was, I asked, I said, "Are you going to allow e-bikes on this?" They said, "Yeah, but it's the bikes have to be paddle assist, not throttle."
Okay.
And so, because otherwise you can just crank it up, the one like I'm getting, you can do 30 miles an hour if you just hit the throttle and stuff, and it'll do and you can go 60 miles doing that. So, but anyway, I'm looking forward to that, but I won't get that till September. So.
That trail, is that something that the city will have to maintain once they do all the work, or they're going to
maintain it and stuff, and they're looking for, sponsorship and stuff like that to help them with it. If they can get some sponsorship, it'll speed up the process. But right now it's going to be, just guys and gals that want to ride are going to help build the track and stuff. So it should be really great. And it's, Lake Jackson is, we've always, if we're going to put an asset on the ground or in the city, we're going to wait until we can do it right.
Right.
And when these guys came in and said, let's partner on this, I said, man, this sounds great.
Yep.
And it's not going to cost us any money.
Yeah.
And stuff. We'll throw some. We'll put some effort into it, but mostly it's going to be their, sweat and tears go into it and stuff. So
that's good.
Y'all putting like a water fountain or something out there or something like that
for that or for
the trail. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, as far as for drinking,
like bathrooms or yeah.
Well, there's bathrooms and stuff out there. So
okay.
I mean, it's not going to be right there it's not going to be at the trail, but they're all close to there.
Okay.
It'll be just a couple pedals away, and they can get to the restroom and stuff.
I have something on my.
Yeah, drinking a little too hard there.
Sorry, it's hot.
You sweating? I know you were going to build a skate park too.
Yeah.
At one time.
We're really excited about it. Yeah, it's going in. Okay. It's going to be awesome. Originally we were going to do in ground, and again, being Missouri County, in ground is not the world's best thing, but we had a plan to do it, and but then we've gone with developers and with input from the community. It's going to be above ground, and it's going to be. Again, we hope it's going to be premier. And what's weird is that when we do a project like this, be it a dog park or whatever that we've put in, is we always seek, input from the community. When we asked for help with the skateboard park, we had more people come in and want to help
than
you'd ever believe.
That's really
and
good.
It was rage. It was everything from 8-year-olds to 65-year-olds.
Wow.
And the 65, and they were avid skateboarders. And so that was great, and our director over Parks and Recreation, he was smiling from ear to ear, and to get all that input and stuff. And so it's going to be great, and it's something that if it catches on, really does well, we can always expand. Right. And so we're looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great thing, because what we have right now is. We bought many years ago, and it was all temporary stuff. Well, temporary became permanent, and it was designed for actually be mobile, so you could put it up, take it down, and put it somewhere else. And so it's been stationary for a very long time, and so it's great to see it happen. So we've had to delay it a little bit because of just financing, but we're hoping to get it done by I think next year. So
next year. That was my next.
It's going to get started. It's going to get started. I think. Toward the fourth quarter, but I'm not sure. But it's soon. It's going to be going. It's gonna. I think it's going to be fourth quarter or very first part of the first quarter. And because what we originally did was we split the payment of it across 2 budget years. But now, since things have moved around and we've been able, and we're paying for it with half-cent sales tax, we've got the fundings available now where we can do it all in 1 year. Fund it all in 1 year.
That's awesome.
What's probably the number one priority on the council's list? If we tuned into your council meetings, what's a reoccurring topic right now that y'all are talking about?
That's a tough one.
Pick more than one.
Yeah, pick more than one. Well, we've we're just finishing up the budget process, and our budget process is not a month-long thing. It's basically a year long. What we'll do is we'll go, our budget years are from October to September. And so we'll start a new budget in October. Well, in November, staff will start working on the next year's budget. And in January, they come to us and we start our strategic planning. And our strategic planning that we do feeds into the budget process. And so that's what I brought into the system years ago. And it's really streamlined our budgeting process. It makes it a lot smoother. It's very transparent, and people can see going forward what the direction is that we're heading. Why we're budgeting the way we are. But so that's what we're talking about now. We talk about master plans and how we're going to fund our master plan. So we have an overall city master plan, and we have a parks master plan, and so those are things that that. Throughout the year, we'll talk about different elements of that. We're fixing to do our next phase of downtown revitalization. So that's phase 3 of 4 that's going to happen. So it's going to take 18 months to 24 months to do that. And so that, again, it upgrades the downtown area and stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if there's just one thing that we hit on.
Like
we're always, we're always we're making sure that as best as we can, we're keeping on top of everything. And so we know that we even do forward planning on our council meetings, on topics that need to come to council and when it needs to come to council and all those type of things. So I don't know. We hit all the high marks as they come up and stuff, or as we've planned for them. Right. I don't know. It's kind of a hard question to answer.
How are you balancing, or how's the council balancing everything with COVID coming, with all this different variations and Delta variant and mask, no mask, vaccine? Right. What are y'all doing to educate the public? Or are y'all tracking COVID numbers? What does that look like?
Well, the only tracking that we can do on COVID is we get it from the county, because we don't have a health department. The county does. Okay. And so that's where the official numbers come from. So they're the ones that are doing the tracking. That's where we get our numbers from, is from the county. Then the other thing, as far as COVID, I don't know if you saw on the news, was I guess it was yesterday, the governor came back out and did another executive order. But and this latest executive order is that we're in the state of Texas, we're not going to mandate vaccines. Right. Because we're still operating under a disaster declaration by the governor, which has been out there ever since from day one of COVID, is he takes away all the authority from local governments, even from county judges and from city mayors. So, if I want to go implement something, be it, masks or whatever, I can't do it legally. I cannot do it. It has to be by the governor. Is the one that makes that call.
But businesses can still do that.
Businesses can still do that. So it's up to individual businesses if they want to mandate masks or whatever, or if they want to mandate that their employees are vaccinated, they can do that. Right. If they choose to do that, yeah.
Us being in Texas, we're a little more non-mask, I guess. We see around here. Do you hear a lot of flack from that, because there's people who are no maskers, and there's a segment of population that just want a double mask. Right. So do you hear that?
Well, there's a mix. Yeah, there is a mix. And even, in our conservative little city, there's, I don't want to say little city, or conservative city is growing city is, it's, there's a mix. And, I'm already starting to get phone calls or text messages and stuff like that of, finding out where we're going and stuff like that. And all I can tell them is this is what I'm allowed to do. Right. I think, there's a big part of it, part of the group, part of the city that the feeling is that, we're all educated now of what you can and you can choose to do. Yeah. And so it's, and I think the leaning is to make that, here you are, we're educating you, and then you make your own personal decision on what you want to do. Yeah. I mean, as soon as I had the opportunity to go get vaccinated, I did. Right. And my wife did also. But there's people in my family that chose not to. Right. And so but that's their choice. Yep. And I've also involved in the medical world, been a member and president for the board for Community Health Network. And we were big helpers in getting the first, getting involved with doing testing in Brazoria County, and also providing vaccines, working with the county to get vaccines out there too as quickly as we could. So
I feel like the county does a really great job, and the local disasters, since Hurricane Harvey, with the freeze, with COVID, the county acts really quick. Right. There's always water stations and food stations and everything. So do you play a role in that as well?
Yeah. We have an emergency operations center, and as mayor, I guess you could say I have final responsibility for it, but I have a great environment. We have great EOC coordinator, Lieutenant Sidebottom, and he's awesome gentleman. And he runs a very good emergency operations center, and I am very involved in that as much as I can, that time allows and stuff, as far as, taking the training. That's, a lot of training I've taken is not required for a mayor to take, but I take it because I want to understand, just like when I worked in the corporate world, is I want to understand what I'm asking our people to do. And so, we have, Brian Sidebottoms is great. And he's always communicating and looking out for our community. That's and good. So we've, and the other thing is, whenever we had the freeze, we jumped out there real quick and put an order into the state. That's what you have to do is for like water or any kind of things, you put it into the state system. And so we ordered like 200 pallets of 200 pallets, not cases, pallets of bottled water. And we were lucky because whenever the freeze happened, we saw our staff that's over our utilities and stuff. They started seeing stuff, and they made the decision of maximizing the water that we had in our above ground storage. And so whenever power went out, and we had generation power on some of our wells, but not all of our wells. So, we started losing tower level, and so that impacts your pressure in your system and stuff. The thing is that we were the last city to go into boil water and the first one to come out. And the only reason why we could do that is because of what our employees did to get us through that event. Where I'm getting at is that we had ordered those. We were probably the first group cities that put in the request for those pallets of water. And so we saw we were going to be coming off and being back on the city water. And so we said, well, we don't need this water. And we could have easily said, well, we'll just take it and keep it for a future, hurricane season's coming up. And so like, well, we didn't, but we made it available to other cities in the county, right. And, what's weird is we had some people that were upset that we did that. They said, and they actually said that, they said, why are you giving away my water? It's like, it's not your water.
Yeah.
It's there for the people that need it.
Yeah.
And so it's,
you're not going to make everybody happy.
No, that's true. Yeah. But anyway, it's, we have a great EOC. We have organization and stuff, and it's made up, of everybody, all the different departments in the city and emergency response people. We have a great PD. We have a great volunteer fire department, a great emergency EMS system too, which EMS is a third party. They contract with us. Even though it says Lake Jackson EMS, it's a third party, but they're outstanding.
Okay.
And our volunteer fire department, our volunteer fire department's there, and we hope we can keep them as long as they want to be a volunteer fire department. Yeah. It's a huge asset to us because, if we had to go with a private fire department, it would cost us as much to have, well, not private, but a paid for fire department. It would cost us what our police department costs us. It would cost the same for the fire department. Wow. So it would be 20-cent increase on our tax rate.
Wow.
Type stuff. So that's what we're talking about. So it's huge.
Is there a threshold in the size of the city to where you have to fund a fire department?
Not that I'm aware of. There's some large cities around in Texas that still have volunteer fire departments. And to me, people get, I have volunteer firemen say, where's your position on that and stuff. And I said, again, it's I look to them to tell us we've had enough. Yeah. We need to, we can't do this anymore or whatever type stuff. And I think, and at the same time, we're looking at it to see if we're seeing issues. But I take great pride anytime I talk to any other mayors is being able to say that we still have a volunteer fire department because it just shows that you have dedicated citizens that want to help in the city.
Yep.
Yeah.
One thing that is increased. It's kind of increasing in concern is the flooding. Like our flood zones are increasing, and it seems like every heavy rain downfall we get is these places are just becoming flood zones. Is there anything in the city we can do to mitigate that, like pumping out water or anything, or is it kind of out of our control?
Well, one way you can control it is not to grow. Stop growing, stop putting concrete on the ground and those type of things, and be able to allow water to be absorbed in the soil. But, it's every time we've had any kind of significant rainfall in the city of Lake Jackson, we've been very good, again, going back to Bill Yenny, of documenting those floods or high water issues. And it's helped us out a lot because we've been able to go back through those past storms, and we can understand that if the water is coming out of the river at this point or out of the creek at this point, is like where that water will flow, and we can look ahead to see, what we can do during that incident to be prepared going forward. But like with Harvey, Harvey was a completely different animal. It wasn't a hurricane for us; it was a rain event. And so it was all the rain that was up north of us that flowed down the rivers, and that's what got us. And again, because of development upstream of us and around us, the water, when it came down, it flowed in different directions than we expected. And so that was some of the surprises. But we've got projects to address localized flooding in our residential areas. So we did a study that took 3 years to do it for the east side of our city and some of our older residential areas. And it borders up against Clute, our neighboring city. And since whatever we would do there would also impact Clute, we worked with Clute and Clute helped fund the study to identify, how can we address the moving rainwater out of that area of the cities. And so it took 3 years to collect the data, do the modeling. We've got an excellent model now, and we identified over $40 million worth of projects just on the Lake Jackson side, not on the Clute side. Yeah. And again, $40 million is just for us. That's just something you can't do all at once. And so we decided we have to break it into pieces. And so this last bond we passed, $12 million of that bond goes toward the first section of projects to address that. And now what it will do is everybody, when it rains, they look out on their street and they say, well, my street's flooding. Well, no, you got to remember your street is your ditch, because you don't have a ditch cut into your ground in front of your house. You have a street, and that's just like out in front of y'all's house is the street is your ditch. And so it's going to collect water, it's going to move it out. The deal is you want it to move out. And so what we're spending these dollars are, water's still going to collect in the streets, but it's going to allow it to move out quicker.
That's good. Because
we had some areas in the street, in that area over there, where the streets stay flooded for over a day. Yeah. And that's just not acceptable. And so, we're shooting for is that, shortly after rain stop, those streets should start draining and be cleared out type stuff. So
another interesting topic across the state is homelessness. Yeah. We're starting to see a little uptick every now and then. And when I say uptick, it's one or two homeless people around the Lake Jackson area. So what is the city doing to manage that? Is that on the radar? Obviously, we're nowhere near Austin, right?
Thankfully.
But, is that on the radar?
Oh, yeah. It's something that we look at, and we've tried our best to address it. Now we're in our lower numbers of homeless out there. When we did a count years ago, I guess it's already been a few years ago, also with across the county did it. It was a time and point survey. So they had people that agreed to participate in the survey, and so they just picked a day to go out there and just do a point in time survey to go find out how many homeless people we had. I think we had around 18 in the city. Okay. Most of them were underneath overpasses and so forth, and we have a lot of wooded areas, so some people, live out in the woods and stuff like that. And so that was kind of, a piece of data that we were surprised with was the number. Then we went over there and, we came up with an ordinance that the purpose of the ordinance is that, again, different higher courts and stuff have, has stated that it's not against the law to be homeless. Okay. So you can't go arrest somebody for being homeless. What we did though is we said in there is that, you can't camp or accumulate materials on public property. Right. And so that's how we've started to address our homeless population. Again, we would like to find resources for them, places for them to go. I don't know if you've heard about the Happy Bean Project that's out there. That's another good person you ought to get in touch with to talk to. And she's focused on she sells coffee. and different things. And
I like her already.
yeah.
Is she local?
Yes. Yeah, they're in Lake Jackson, and it was a bigger project. And she'll tell you it was somewhat of a nationwide project, and then it's because of COVID and everything else, she's had to bring it back down and stuff. And so now she's located in Lake Jackson, and through the sales of coffee and in Lake Jackson. And through volunteers in Lake Jackson area, they come to Houston to help the homeless.
Wow, that's great.
And so they interact with them. They bring them clothing that's been donated. They bring them housing vouchers, and when they can get those and all that kind of stuff. So they're trying to give the people a hand up instead of a handout. And so again, that would be a great person for you to talk to. She's got a great message, and she's trying to do great things. But again, that's somebody I've interacted with. I've talked to her several times, and where we can, we'd like to partner up with her on stuff like that. And but again, going back to the homeless and the way our ordinance operates is that whenever we do have to take action on someone, we have to collect all the items that they have, because that's their personal possessions. Even though it looks like trash to us, it's a personal possession. So unless it's food or something like that can, spoil and stuff, well, then we have to store that for 30 days. Mm. And so after 30 days, they can come pick that stuff back up and move on or whatever type stuff. But most of the time, the only time what I've been told is the only thing they'll come back for is bicycles and stuff like that. Yeah. They don't come back for a lot of things. But anyway, it's worked some, but it's not a perfect system.
Yeah.
It's the best we can do with the laws that are out there.
It's a tough problem to deal with, I imagine. There's no right answer, but you can't help somebody that doesn't want to help themselves.
That's true. And again, we've talked to people, and you've heard these stories. You've talked to people that are out on the street because they have mental illness, and they've been kicked out of every place they've been, and they don't have any choices. But then there are a few people that's their preference, and they know the laws better than you do, and so, but for some of the people that need medical health or mental health or whatever help or whatever is through the county and different other resources, we've been able to try to help those people.
That's great. That was my next question. Yeah. So we do have resources throughout Missouri County to help the homeless as far as mental and stuff like that.
Yeah, we have some, not a whole lot. I mean, for years not too far back, it was the only mental health program we had, and sadly in Missouri County, it's not our fault, but it's just it's actually the fault of the state. Is that the only mental health program we had was the county jail. Wow. That's the deal. That's how you got mental health is that you get picked up and then you go get into the system, and then they would evaluate you and say, okay, you need some mental intervention. And so then the county had resources through the state to get people help. But before that, that's the way it is. Now you have different programs. I'm like I said, I'm involved with Community Health Network, and one of the shining stars we have there is that we do have a very strong mental health program, where we have a facility and we do counseling and so forth.
That's great.
The sad part about it is that for every success we have another 100 people that need to come into the program. Yeah. So, there's a huge need in Missouri County. Missouri County, the judges and commissioners and stuff, they just approved $1 million grant to Salvation Army to provide them to do some remodeling, or you want to call it, to renovations to their facility in Freeport.
Nice.
And so that's going to enable them to house more families and people there too. But it's a very small complex. So we just don't have we don't have a large place in Missouri County to house people, to send them to. And that's the other thing is that, you can't arrest, understanding I have is you can't arrest somebody for being on the street if you don't have any place to send them to. Mm. And since we don't have places to send people to, we can't just, right. You have to have other ordinances like we've come up with.
These places that help with mental health, do they have psychologists or psychiatrists or people that are experts in those fields coming in and evaluating and helping?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Even with the county and stuff like that, a lot of the people end up getting moved off to, they either get connected with what is it? Gulf Coast Clinics, I think it is. GCC, I think. That's they have a main office in Angleton, and in Community Health Network we have our facilities too, and so we have professionals that can help with that and stuff like that. And do with us. We do in-house, and we also do telemedicine too. So we set them up with a conference call and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's also I listen to a bunch of talk radio out of Austin, and I feel like the people that complain about it, the citizens could probably step up and do a little something too. Whether it's donating to local organizations or charities, because it's a burden on the city, I imagine, to pay for those resources.
Well, yeah, it is. And again, you're limited on as a city. A lot of times people just think that the city can just wave a wand and fix everything, and we can't. First of all, because that wand costs you and I money.
Right. And
so we're restricted there, and at the same time, we're also restricted on what the state allows us to do and what the federal government allows us to do too, and stuff. So, we can't be the cure-all for everything, but we can at least maybe identify it and go find help where we can.
Right.
But mental health is a big issue, and And what's sad is I was just talking to a doctor at lunch. And talking about partnering with our local hospital down there to drive positive change in the community and stuff, and how we can do that. And we start talking about mental health and about the kids today. They're dealing with depression and all these type of things. And the deal is if we don't invest in it and address that today with them, they're going to grow into adults that are going to have the same issues, and they're going to have children, and they're not going to be able to manage children, and then their children are going to have issues. So it just grows.
Yeah.
So it's better to invest millions of dollars now than later. And then it goes back to another belief I have is that when you start talking about where we as either local governments or federal governments or whatever intervene and address the problems in our communities, is we seem to throw money at the problem whenever people are adults. And if we would spend that money and make sure that our kids all have a good start and a good basis, for them to enable them to grow up and be productive in our community, I'd rather invest the money early than later.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah.
That's a good point.
So,
do y'all get funding from the state or the government for programs like that?
As far as the city?
Yeah.
No. Well, there might be some grants out there, but again, it's more of we would, if we could go do something, we would go and partner with the hospital or our group that's already working in that area, and if putting our name on their grant helps them, that's great, and stuff like that. But for us to go, I don't know. I think the opportunity for us to lead is a lot smaller than being a partner with somebody else that's leading the effort.
No, definitely.
And like United Way, a lot of people looked toward United Way to see if they can do some stuff, and they have looked at it, and I know they're continuing to look at it. But again, it's just not an issue you can resolve quickly. Because even if you want to go over there and build housing for it, you couldn't make housing happen anytime soon.
Yeah,
it's a tough issue.
Yeah,
I mean, we wish we all could answer it really easily, and but it's just like I said, it's tough, and it's when you're dealing with people, it gets tough and it gets emotional.
Yeah, and in comparison, you think like Jackson's attainable now, but if like in California, like Skid Row. Or things like that. It's like, how you
I mean, it's
attack something like that.
I would hate to be any of those big cities like that it's just so far along with this problem. How do you go fix it? And it's just it's tough. And the other thing you could run up into is that say for example is Lake Jackson got a grant and funding or whatever, and we built a really great large homeless shelter. The problem you have is if you have a great program, the word gets out. And before you know it, people are busing down to Lake Jackson because they have a great program, and
Yeah.
and you fill that program up real quick. I can guarantee you we'll prove, just like we prove with a lot of things, is that we'll prove that we can fill up shelters.
Yeah, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, the growth in Lake Jackson. If we stop growing, then crime will probably rise. Stuff will get run down. We'll probably get more homelessness, stuff like that. But if we keep growing, more people are going to come. It's just a whole host of problems, right?
Yeah,
there's no winning.
Well, there is winning. It's just it's the problems change, but there's always going to be challenges and stuff. And there's no wonderful rainbow in the sky. There's always going to be some kind of challenge out there for us. But that's why you hope you elect good people into office and you hire good people to be in your city management to be able to work you through those issues and work with the community. Again, we're just out there to we serve. We're in office to serve the community, and so we need to have a good relationship and a willingness of the community to work with us and come to us and understand it. Again, we can't always fix everything.
Right. What's it like? What's the process like for running for city council or mayor in Lake Jackson? Is it cycle time now to start petitioning and all that stuff, or when do elections come up?
Yeah, our elections are normally, unless there's COVID out there, it's normally in May. Okay, and so, so people can start signing up to run in after January 15th, I think it is.
Okay,
they can officially sign up, but you can announce anytime you want to. And then what we do is our council is made up of 6 total positions, mayor being one of them. And then we have, and the positions are nothing more than just to help you understand, when you're up to vote, when run for your office is up. Because a lot of people think that, is that we're districts. We don't have districts.
Right.
Everybody's at large. And so that confuses some people too, but anyway, so in odd years, the odd number positions are up for election, and even years, the even positions. So the mayor falls into the even position. So even though I didn't get elected to mayor until November of last year, I'll be up. I have to run again in May of 22 if I have an opponent.
Okay. So not having...
I don't want an opponent. It's expensive.
Better watch out for this guy.
Yeah, better watch out. I've got all your weaknesses. So not having districts, that's got to be tough too for getting votes, right? Because then you're just basically throwing a cast in a big pond, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, you're looking toward the whole community to,
Is it because Lake Jackson's not as big as Austin or Houston for districts? Or
well, that's part of it. I mean, like there's smaller cities in our area that have districts. I mean, Clute, my hometown, it has districts.
Oh, okay.
It's just that it's never been heavily discussed. We are a diverse city, and we don't really have a large areas where it's a certain minority and not.
Right.
So it's kind of, everybody's kind of spread around.
Yeah.
And so that's how we've been able to do it. I mean, I think it's been discussed in the past, but we've had people outside come and look, and nobody has ever pressed the issue of saying y'all need to go to districts.
That's interesting. You said, the communities are pretty fair balanced with, right, different races and genders and all that good stuff. I think the plants probably have a lot to do with that, because everyone can go in. I mean, you don't need any kind of special degree. You can get in and make pretty good money, where places probably like Houston and Austin,
it's a different story.
Yeah, different story, right?
Yeah. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody really wants to make an issue of it, there's a process to do it, and I don't know that it would do any good. I don't know that it would bring any value.
Yeah.
Because again, we have a very diverse group on council.
Yeah.
We have we just brought Rhonda Seth on, so she's we've brought a female back on the city council. We have blacks, and we have a black council member. We have council member that's Indian, and then we have and then we have the white guys and stuff. So.
It's very diverse.
Very, very diverse. And then our city manager is Puerto Rican background. So
Okay.
yeah,
I need to get him on the podcast.
yeah, he's a good guy. I mean, he's fun and he's a character. But no, we have good group of people, and it's never been an issue. Like I said, we've always been able to get a good group of people on council.
Yeah. Well, Mayor, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Is there anything that, or where can people, I guess, is there anything that you want to push or people can go to and vote for city council stuff? Or when are the city council meetings held? What day?
Well, council meetings are held on the first and third Monday.
Okay.
And we are streaming them now. So they're streamed live on Facebook, and then we put them on our YouTube channel after that. And then I'm also on Nextdoor app also, and so once we put that up on YouTube, well, then I share that link out to Nextdoor because
Nice.
we have a large population in the city that they do Nextdoor, they don't do Facebook.
Does the city have a social media presence outside of Facebook? Are y'all on Twitter and Instagram?
We've tried Twitter, and we just didn't have a big response on Twitter. So we're primarily Facebook, and then we use our webpage to communicate. Also, that's available. Instagram, we do a little bit there, not a whole bunch and stuff. But we just brought on our public information officer. That's something that I had brought up years ago in some of our strategic planning stuff, and we were just able to just now get the funding to be able to bring that person on board, and it's been a great asset. And so we're building from there and stuff. So we're doing a lot of informational videos. We started a series now that's called How We Work, and so the latest one was showing how the people in our utilities department and stuff go in and clean our sewer pipes.
Kind of like the dirty jobs.
That's a dirty job. Yeah. It's like when they open up the manway, you just see all these roaches just fly out of it. And so she asked, well, should I cut that? I said, no.
Leave it.
Just leave it.
Pause it. Pause it right
This
there.
is what we want.
So, but anyway, it's one of the things we're trying to do is just educate people, how, what our employees do out there on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. And it's, it's, some of them are very dirty jobs, and we wish we could pay a lot better than we do, but we pay as best as we can to try to be competitive. We didn't do any kind of increases last year, so we had to. In this budget, we've got some pay increases in there to try to be competitive, because otherwise you're going to lose people. We had whenever Bo Stallman came in as sheriff, he took a lot of people from a lot of different police departments, bring into his group. And, and people said, well, that's a bad thing that you're losing people to the sheriff's department. I said, well, no, it's not a bad thing. I said, yes, we'd prefer to keep them there. But again, Bo was able to offer them a career, a step up in their career, and which allowed them a better pay scale, And also we take pride into is that, we had quality people that the sheriff could pull from.
Yeah.
And we continue to, add our funding to the PD. We've increased our training budget for them this next year. Last year, whenever the pandemic came about, we didn't know what it was going to do to us. So our city manager said across the board, we're going to cut everybody a certain percentage. And so part of that impacted training. But, people said, well, that's a bad thing. Well, the reality there wasn't any training happening. Right. So there was no need to have the money sitting there. Now, if there was training happening, well, then we would make it available. Well, what happened was I guess a few months ago, or right after the first year, we asked for the PD to look into if training is becoming more and more available and stuff, and if it is, well, then we would increase their budget. And so we did. We bumped it back up to what the original budget was, and it enabled those guys, those officers, to go out and get some training and stuff. But it's still been restricted because of just availability of training. But again, this next year we doubled it and stuff. So again, we wish we could do more, but what I keep on telling, and what the city manager and I both tell the chief and people is that if if you see you need a need, if there's a need there, come to us.
Right.
We're not saying no, and stuff. So just come to us and we'll go find the dollars and stuff. So,
good.
Again, it's, but we have some struggles. I mean, I know you want to wrap this up, but just some of the things that we have to look at is like we talked about volunteer fire department, and we have Lake Jackson has one of the only tower trucks that are in the southern Missouri County, large fire trucks with the ladders with the big fire hose, monitor or whatever at the top and stuff, and cage. Well, ours is 15 years old, and so it needs to be replaced.
Yep.
Well, when we bought it, it was 1.5 million. Now it's 2.
Just doubled.
Yeah, it's doubled. And so, we've got to go find those dollars to go replace that. And again, running a tight budget like we do, it's just you just can't pull those things out of the air. And we have a capital replacement budget that we do, and the way that works is that whenever you buy a big piece of equipment like that, you look at the life of that piece of equipment, and then you set aside enough money to buy that piece of equipment again at the end of life. The problem is the fire trucks have just ballooned in cost, and so it's no way we can keep up with it. And so our capital, our replacement budget, that's capital replacement budget, is just doesn't have enough there to do that. So we're going to have to look at a way to fund that in the next year or so.
Yeah, doing some fundraising activities, I'm sure, or something, right?
Car washes. I mean, they just name their price on those fire trucks. I mean,
we have a few
custom made. They're all custom made. So
they're all custom made.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, you got the basic shell and stuff, but when it comes down what kind of equipment you want in it and stuff, I mean, every time when we do this, we have our chief goes to volunteer firemen and says, we're fixing to go purchase this piece of equipment, and he identifies a group of firemen that'll sit down and they'll spec it out on what we need and stuff like that. So, and that's another problem is when they get, like, again, 15 years down the road, is just that you can't get parts for them anymore.
Yeah.
Everything from printed circuit boards to whatever.
Well, you got some experience at Dow. I mean, you
get
should be used to that.
And make those repairs, man.
Yeah. It's run it till failure, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's kind of.
It's the PMs, huh?
I thought they changed things over.
Nope.
Oh man, I'm gonna get fired.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, and in my background also, I was. When I was at Dow, I was, I talked to you earlier about it, I started manufacturing, and then I went into production, and I went into business analyst, and I was a global supply chain director. And then whenever Dow went to Six Sigma, well, then I got into Six Sigma. So I'm a certified master black belt also. And I finished up the company as being one of the 10 senior consultants in the company.
That's awesome.
And so, so that's my expertise. I'm always looking for somebody that has a need and somebody that has a capability and bring them together. Yeah. And once I bring them together and they realize that they can work together and add value, then I just back out. Yep. I don't need to be there.
Yeah.
I'm just in the way, and I go on to the next project. So that's kind of how I do, being mayor and being on council is looking where there's opportunities and where there's capabilities and bring them together and let the magic happen.
Yeah. Well, we had fun, Mayor, and it was a blast. And you're our first political head to come on. so it was a pleasure.
Good. No, I'm very excited about this. I'm glad you made the offer and stuff, and ask me back anytime. And just like I said, feel free to reach out, and we can, if you want to talk to some other people on staff, that's great.
Okay.
Talk to Modesto or anybody, and
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Mayor.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.